Hello again. Still working on the Herald 1360's engine rebuild. I've just finished filming the last episode and I'm keeping going and starting to look at the camshaft and crankshaft timing. So I just had a bit of a panic because I thought even after all my previous issues getting the right bore size and bearing size for this camshaft, that there was something else wrong with it. Fortunately, I was wrong. So I'll show you what was up and we'll get on with the rest of the actually doing the work. In order to get the relationship between the crank and the camshaft correct, I'm going to need to measure when we're on the peak of a camshaft lobe, and when we're top dead centre, true top dead centre for a piston. And I just dropped a tappet in number 1, and you can see that rod's not going up and down. And then I had a look further in the engine and I could see nothing looked like it lined up. All of the cam lobes are offset. And I had a bit of a panic because I thought it was completely wrong. But what I've done is, obviously I put the cam keeper plate here just to keep things in place while putting everything else together. And the engine plate, the front engine plate goes on here, and then the keeper plate, so the camshaft goes a little bit that way, which is going to put it in the right place. So that's a relief. Anyway, I'll get the front of this plate cleaned up, get a gasket out and get it all put together. Okay, so the next thing to do is to make sure these, so our teeth for the timing chain, are in alignment. Problem is, I have no shims, had no shims for here, and they're just listed as no longer available. However, this shaft is 1 inch in diameter, so I was able to find some 1 inch, they're referred to as arbor spacing shims, from this place. So I bought myself a selection. These are the bonus here is these have got a keyway on them as well, so I can put shims on and off without taking the woodruff key out. So I bought 2, 4, 6 and 8 thou, 2 of each. Hopefully that's going to be enough to get me in line. So because this is not quite, I have checked this as well, the originals were 1 inch in diameter and got crushed against this corner. But anyway, because they'll get squashed out of shape when I finally put them on, I'm not going to start putting shims in to test. I'm going to use feeler gauges on the flat portions just to let me check the alignment. Now it looks like, so we have to go against the teeth of each gear, and there's quite a lot of space there. So
So that was 35 thou, which I can't quite make, but there was a rock, so let's go down to... That's still a bit, makes this a little bit far forward. So that is, yeah, it's 32. 16, 28, and one of the 4s. Good job I bought loads. So this could go tighter. Obviously it needs to be fully torqued down by, obviously don't want to do that, but that lets me check, you know, we're not getting any so I've not got any gap here. My tiniest feeler gauge won't go underneath, so I think I can be happy with that set of shims. If I can now undo this knot and get everything back off again. So what I'm going to do next is construct some sort of device to enable me to measure the cam lift, to find out the peak of the cam lobes and the true top dead centre of the cylinders, because that's what we need to now get in alignment. So the chain is going to join our crankshaft and camshaft together. That needs to be done in the right orientation. Got to go and scrounge some sort of materials to give me a piston stop and a cam lift measure. Oh, and I need a degree wheel to go on the crankshaft. Right, so I've spent a couple of hours, yeah, it took that long, making this contraption. So, it's a flat piece of perspex, former piece of fence. Got a piston stop that can be removed. That's the mistake I made. Originally I had one that was fixed. And these are old push rods with a spring that apparently no catch on. That works. So we rotate the cam, those will go up and down. And this is what's going to let me determine when the camshaft is at its true lobe peak and when the piston is at its true top dead centre. I'm going to sort myself out with a degree wheel for the crankshaft and we'll give it a go. And so I've been getting my cam timing done. Now, I didn't record it and I'm not going to talk at length about it either because, yeah, I'm figuring out what I'm doing. I'm not in a position to try and tell anybody or show anybody, you know, the right way or a way. But kind of the principle is, and this degree wheel is off of name of a website I forget, but I will link it. And you can do customizable degree wheels and print them out. So that meant I could make it the size I wanted with a hole in the middle, you know, the marked up hole in the middle to fit my socket contraption thing. And also I can mark it up with these lines, which are red and green, representing the intake and exhaust durations, which has been quite handy for visualising what's going on. And also remember, these numbers you see here, this is a mark. So I know this is a Herald 1360 on this set of videos, but I've just built this pretty much exactly, or no, exactly to a Mark III Spitfire specification. So these numbers here are not the numbers for a standard 1360 cam. However, both the 1360 cam and the Spitfire Mark III cam are symmetrical, so that the idea applies. You can either set the timing based on when the inlet and exhaust valves are fully open, and that is right in the middle of this duration, so right in the middle of this green or red hemisphere. So that works out as 110 degrees after top dead center for the inlet. Alternatively, you can use the method Triumph describe in the workshop manual. I describe with the head on, which I've not done yet, which is kind of why I'm messing around like this. And set it so that when you're at top dead center, the inlet and exhaust valves should be equally open in this overlap region. So the overlap region is where both of them are not completely closed. Anyway, after much back and forth, I'm pretty sure I've got this dead on, so I'm happy to move forward and put the head on. Once the head is on, I am going to recheck using the overlap method, and that I think is what I'm going to be getting on with next. Right, so time to look at the head. Before I start putting anything back in it, I'm going to change these core plugs. So I haven't done it on the block. I know the cooling system was in good condition, and I'm more concerned about making stuff leak, and also the core plugs on the block are not too horrendously inaccessible. This head is second hand, no idea of its history. It makes sense to deal with these while it's off. Unfortunately, I recently inherited a large selection of chisels and drifts, so let's see if this is going to do us anything. And number 2. So just that little bit of weakness introduced by grinding away at the edges, let them release, and smacking it through with the chisel. So I've been around with the brass wire brush and the compressed air blowgun and got these all nice and clean, so I can get the replacement plugs in. Right, so the head is ready to get the valve gear put in. Just had a bit of a clean up, so I've got space to work. And before I get on with that, I'm going to get the things into the last things into the top of the engine. So I'm going to put the head studs in, and then the tappets. Alright, I've just given all the stud threads a run through dye, make sure they're nice and clean. So I'll start in this corner. This is where the lifting eye lives. So that gets the 2 slightly longer studs. And it's the shorter threads on all of them that go into the block. Now I've got tappets. So I am using new, I don't think my old ones were I don't think there was much wrong with my old ones, but I'm changing the cam, so these new tappets are needed. Okay, so block's ready to take the head. So now we've got to put the valves in. See, I don't need these anymore. Outfit. And again, we're now on to, this is not standard 1360 setup, this is the Spitfire Mark III style. Each valve we have this bottom collet, whatever it is, top, and then our two, whatever they're called, that hold the valve in place. So I do have this genuine Churchill spring compressor, which is quite cool. But it requires the head to be on its side like this. And it would be easier to be able to drop those little black, are they the collets? Anyway, the bits that hold the valve on, be easier to be able to drop them in. But, well, yeah, this is what I've got. Let's get going with this and see how it goes. Well, that seemed to work. I think I'm going to need to stick the head on a block of wood, get it a bit higher. Nearly forgot, these springs do have, so I nearly forgot, these springs do have an orientation requirement. As you can see, there's at the bottom, as we're looking, there's the coils tighter together, closer together. And I'm pretty sure that is the bottom and that is the top as they go on the head. But before going any further, I'm going to check. Yes, that is correct. That's a general thing as well, from what I've just read. Fortunately, the one I put on is already the right way up. So I will get these done. Well, there we go. That is not quite ready to go on the car. I want to do that first. That's the. I'm going to put the plug in for. Well, it's just a blanking plug here. If this was to go in the Spit Mark III, this would be the takeoff for the heater, I think. But it's blanked on the Herald, or at least my model of 1360. And it's awkward to get to once the head is on because the engine lifting eye sits here and you can't really get anything to it. And this hole is threaded with the same thread as the drain plugs for the gearbox and the engine, and is fitted with the same tapered plug. And those are 3/8 NPT, which, I mean, the BSP is close enough that you can manage to get a tap in, but it knackers the threads. And the plugs are the things that are tapered, not the hole. Yeah, that's what the Spitfire Mark III would have in. I'm going belt and braces and using some pipe thread sealer. I don't really expect this is going to leak, but I don't really expect it's coming out again anytime soon either. So. Okay, so I found myself an older Payen gasket set. I can't see any orientation marks, but I do see this. And funnily enough, that I could read that in a very similar layout, in a very similar position, on the top of my block when I took the engine apart. So I'm fairly confident that that goes down. So previously I stripped and checked over both of these rocker shafts. The rear one's the one that came off the Herald, front one's the one that came off the Spitfire Mark III head. They are slightly different in that this one has, I think all the springs were the same length and there were these spacers. So I'm going to reuse this one. All of them, like the rockers are knackered. The shaft's worn out, the rockers are worn out. So they're just back together in order to keep everything in the right order, to keep all the parts together. So let's transfer all the parts we're going to keep onto a new rocker shaft with some new rockers. Okay, what are the things to watch out for? So, this is a hollow tube, and the older one I had there were sort of like freeze plugs, core plug type fittings in the end. This has got a threaded hole and an Allen bolt plug in each end. This threaded hole goes with this post. And that's important because that's the main oil feed into this tube and therefore to the rockers. Handy having a spare rocker shaft because that shows the orientation. Basically we have pairs pointing towards one another. I think that's it, so let's get it built. Okay, so that's together. Let's get it on the engine. I've got my rocker pedestal studs, and the rocker cover studs in as well. I probably should have put these in a bit earlier because it was very difficult to get a spanner anywhere near the bottom. But, you know, they're not holding a great deal of torque, so we should be fine. On this goes. Just got to make sure I get the push rods lined up as this goes down. So I've just been going very carefully there, making sure that the push rods were locating on the rockers and that we weren't putting any undue pressure on. The adjusters were loose enough that we weren't actually pushing on the push rod. Okay, I'm confused. I've got the rocker adjusters backed off as far as they can go. All Heralds and Spitfires used the same rockers. These are the same dimensions as the ones that were just taken off. All Heralds and Spitfires used the same push rods, or the 1300. Well, let's say the Mark III and the 1360. The Spitfire Mark III and the Herald 1360 definitely used the same rockers. They definitely use the same push rods. The rocker pedestals are the same height. I can't seem to bolt this down without everything binding up. So I get the rockers are all the way backed off, but I don't get any clearance on the valves. I suppose it's not impossible this head has been skimmed, but then we're talking, that's quite significant. It'd be quite a significant amount if that was the case. Yeah, I've had it tidied up, but you know, that's a thou or two perhaps. Not enough to stop my rockers from working. So I've measured the heads. Well, measured this head and the old Herald head, and they're about 1.5 millimeters different in thickness. Kind of instinctively, I feel like that's not quite enough to cause problems, but 1.5 millimeters in engine tolerance terms is quite a large amount, so possible I need to have some shorter push rods. Now I'm going to have to go away and do a bit of research because, yeah, I'm just not sure. So I was going to finish this video by getting the rocker shaft bolted down, valve clearance is set, top end would be good to go, but it doesn't seem to fit. So let's finish up here. So thank you everyone for watching, thanks for subscribing and commenting, and see you next time with hopefully some news as to how this is going to work.